Find your support in that committee, and do you think it has enough support among your colleagues?
Well, first off, I suspect we'll go through an extensive amendment process tomorrow in financial services. We're successful there. The bill will pass out. We'll go through a similar process in the Agriculture Committee because it's a split jurisdiction. But yes, I believe it's time to bring some certainty to this process. I will give Chairman McHenry of the Financial Services Committee and Chairman Thompson of the Ag Committee high marks for working really hard to get us to this point. The number of hearings, the number of briefings, the number of roundtables, the number of stakeholders we've listened to, it's really quite incredible. But this is a complex bill, and we'll see how comfortable the members are. Will it pass unanimously? Probably not. Will the Republicans overwhelmingly support it? I believe so. Will we get Democrats? I think so. Do we have wild cards on both sides of the room in the R's and D's? Absolutely. That's the nature of this complicated session of Congress.
Yeah, well, this is Washington in 2023. Congressman, what are you hearing, though, from your Democratic colleagues on this matter?
I think they're generally supportive. There is some hesitation. You have to understand that a lot of it depends on your philosophical perspective. Most of my conservative colleagues, without regard to party affiliation, view this potentially as where financial transactions go, view this as a legitimate effort that's been evolving, and it needs to have certainty and regulation to move forward. Some of my more liberal colleagues, I think, are a little hesitant about creating parallel ways to move resources because they would like the government and the traditional payment system to control everything. But we'll work our way through that tomorrow. But also remember, this will be a committee markup in Financial Services and Ag this week. We will still have to go to the floor. The Senate will still need to do something. We'll still wind up with a conference committee report or a final version of a bill that then goes to the president's desk. So we've come a long ways, but this is just the first steps to get to the end.
Congressman, what is the Democratic compromise here, knowing that there are a large group of Democrats that don't necessarily agree with the bill as it stands today?
I don't know that I can answer that question. There are a handful who just philosophically don't believe that resources should be able to pass through sources outside of the government. If you want to tax everything, if you want to regulate everything, then you want to keep it close to where Uncle Sam the Federal Reserve System and Treasury can keep a grip. If you believe that resources should move where the economy and the markets dictate, which tends to be more of my, I suppose, my conservative Republican colleagues, then you're generally supportive of this. But the markets, the consumer reaction has been so far, we want to do this. Now, regulatory certainty, competing in the international financial world, and safety for people making these investments using these avenues, that's critically important. And that's what this bill is all about.
What does this mean for the control that the CFTC has over the crypto industry vis-a-vis what the SEC will be overseeing moving forward under the new constructs of the law?
Well, I've been a part of both ag committees for almost 3 decades. There's different perspectives from how the Commodity Futures Trading Commission functions from the SEC. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission is proactive. The SEC is reactive. SEC tends to be, at least under its present leadership, more control-oriented generally about everything. Bottom line is this: the fact that the two chairmen are working so methodically together says that there is a way to achieve a consensus. Now, we still have to have the Senate, and we still have to have some other folks participate with us, but we can't continue in the Wild West format we're working in right now. Our international competitors will eat us alive, and we'll continue to have circumstances where, sometimes $1 billion at a time seems to disappear. That's unacceptable in the format we're working in now.
Congressman, you alluded there to SEC Chair Gary Gensler, who obviously was dealt a bit of a blow in court recently in regard to the Ripple case and whether XRP was indeed a token, the court ruling that it is not when sold to retail investors. Do you think court decisions like that build momentum in Congress toward making this delineation, deciding what the SEC ultimately has authority over?
It is stressing the urgency for Congress to react. The courts, depending on which court it is, depending on which judge it is, depending on the nature of the case put together, you get a variety of results. That's not just in these issues, but all issues. It reinforces the fact we need to provide some certainty. We'll see if we're capable of starting that process this week. Again, I give my full committee chairman, McHenry, and G.T. Thompson much credit for getting us to this point. But it's a big boulder we're pushing up a tall economic and political hill.
And Congressman, final question for you, just given your role on the Agriculture Committee, the Ag Appropriations Bill now seems to be the subject of debate over culture wars. There is also several conservative colleagues that you have that are pushing for reductions in SNAP benefits. Congressman, what is your take on all of that?
The House of Representatives is a very intense body. The Republican Conference is a very intense group of conservatives. We're going to have challenges in every piece of legislation that goes across the floor. We saw this in NDAA. We're not going to see this in the approach process. We'll see it in the Farm Bill. Remember, the House passes language, the Senate takes action. We have to reconcile the differences in a conference committee report. Conference committee reports require a majority of the House and the Senate, a majority of the overall bodies. The final product may not look like everything that originally leaves the House or the Senate, but that's okay. It's called legislating.